Open up your eyes, take a look at me. Get the picture fixed in your memory. I'm driven by the rhythm like the beat of a heart. And I won't stop until I start to stand out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the LorcanaCast, your premier trading card game podcast for Lorcana. It is a wonderful time because we are now in the year 2023. So happy New Year. Yay! Celebrate good times tonight. And we are here to talk about Disney Lorcana news, and it's official news, not speculation. So over the last couple weeks in December, we've gotten news about different deck building restrictions, 2 new cards, and so we brought the team together to discuss what we think about these announcements, what we think about the cards. We've also got some listener questions, so there's a ton of great stuff to talk about, all in this week's show. So we've got Chris, we've got Jason, and we've got that guy with the beard. I think his name is Skeff. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is very accurate, actually.
Okay,
Yes, cool. Crazy guy with a beard. It's normally accurate.
There's like a third fist hiding in your beard somewhere.
We will never know.
Or last week's lunch. We'll find out at Gen Con, hopefully.
This is true. We will find out in Gen Con. We all meet in person.
Welcome to the show, everybody. How is the team doing? How are y'all? Did you have a good New Year's?
I'm awesome. This is Bates. Just excited for the new year. I got to take on my family. We're recording this on New Year's Eve. Got to take on my family tonight watching. My daughter saw Harry Potter for the first time, so that was cool.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
What a dude. That's a moment.
Did you put your name in the Potter? Or in the chalice, Harry?
Was that the first movie? No, that wasn't the first movie.
No, that was way deep in the movies.
Wow.
I was like, I didn't just see that. I'm pretty sure I didn't see that part yet.
He's a wizard, Harry. You're a wizard.
Right, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. I saw that tonight.
You're a Harry wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
How's everybody else doing?
Doing good, brother. Can't complain.
I'm waiting for an invitation to Hogwarts still. It hasn't showed up yet.
I think we're past due, bro. I was like 11 years old.
Yeah. Do you have an uncle who's like, neutering your incoming mail?
I applied for the role of Hagrid. I thought the beard would be big enough.
Oh, no. You're too short, man.
Do you live under the cover, under the stairs?
No, that would not be Hagrid.
Was People Under the Stairs a Disney movie?
Oh my goodness!
That's my favorite movie. That's my favorite movie as a child.
People Under the Stairs is your favorite movie.
As a child, it was.
As a child, your favorite movie was The People Under the Stairs.
That movie
Not like Heavyweights or Hercules or Aladdin. Nope. Mom, throw in The People Under the Stairs for me, please. Bring out the popcorn and Capri Sun. Let's sit down under the blankies on this one, ladies and gentlemen.
No. You had to have the Kool-Aid drink.
Clearly, my parents didn't watch me when didn't care what I was watching. If they let me watch People Under the Stairs when I was 10 years old.
Speaking of parents failing epically, I have a story for you real quick. So my oldest one, a 6-year-old, we have a tablet for him for school, and so like he's on break right now, so he gets to play games on there, and we have it like restricted.
Roblox, whatever. Yeah.
That little monster got into Disney Plus, put on the original Jurassic Park,
okay.
Yes, PG. He's 6.
It's like PG-13. It's fine.
He's 6. He's like 30 minutes into the movie, and he was quiet. And I'm just like, why are you just? And then I'm like, what are you watching? He's like, Daddy, I saw the Velociraptor eat that man. And I'm like, oh no, give me this iPad. You can't be watching this.
There's nothing inappropriate for children.
No, that's a shame.
Yeah, he does.
Life finds a way, Skip.
Exactly.
Life finds a way.
Yeah,
and that man was yummy.
Parenting tip. Oh, apparently he goes like, yeah, he ate all of them. And I'm like, oh my goodness, put this away. You can't watch it right now.
Clever girl.
Nightmares.
Could turn into a Lorcana card in the future.
The Velociraptor?
Is that Disney?
Who knows? It's Fox.
Everything's Disney. Oh, okay.
No, it's Universal.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Wait, how did he watch it on Disney Plus then?
I don't know. He watched it. Don't know what app it's
Hold
on. It's on.
Something's wrong here.
He watched on app. Maybe I had it saved on the iPad, but he watched it.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, you're getting a little bit of culture in your life. It's not the worst thing in the world.
I mean, just think back to what we used. I saw. We watched Willow and we watched Labyrinth. And
Labyrinth is terrifying.
I mean, and The Princess Bride. But like, if you watch those movies now with your kid, they just all feel like a little icky, right? Like, I mean, like there's just parts of all those movies where it's like our parents let us watch these movies when we were kids because that's the way it was.
Nightmare fuel for sure. Right. Some of those parts of the movies.
Gremlins, cough, cough.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, you don't even have to go that deep. You can just go with like the Dark Crystal.
Oh, the dark
terrifying.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nightmare Fuel. Well, this got sidetracked really quick. Also, great start for the year,
How do you
guys.
feel about Howard the Duck?
I also Nightmare Fuel.
Yes, we're not talking about duck sex tonight.
Why would you say it? Why would you say it? It's inferred.
Wow.
It's inferred.
The whole movie, right?
Yeah, Leah Thompson, Flash from the Past. Absolutely.
Oh no.
Who
Okay.
Framed Roger Rabbit? Another one.
That's a great
That's
movie.
also haunting. Very haunting. The
How?
When do you remember when he's all flattened out? And then like all the acid and stuff.
He's like a little balloon. It's okay when the duck.
he pops his eyeballs out, and I was like,
Oh,
yeah, it's
I forgot about that.
Drop Dead Fred. Drop Dead
Yeah.
Fred.
Drop Dead Fred. I never did see.
Rip. Oh, that was a banger. That was good. It's creepy.
Well, I guess we'll get back to the Lorcana part of the podcast.
This is a Lorcana podcast, right?
I'm about to say, take three.
Yeah, $1, Bob. We're not talking about Lorcana tonight. We're talking about all these movies we watch. It's children.
Top movies of 2022.
Yeah. Wait, what? Roger Rabbit is not in that movie. If you say Avatar, something of the water, I'm going to jump in.
I didn't even see it yet. I'm not excited to see it.
They straight up stole it from Avatar: The Last Airbender because the second book, aka the second movie, is water. I was like, wait a minute.
First off, that
I
franchise
didn't
should be
recognize
called
that.
Pandora. So screw you, James Cameron. Avatar: The Last Airbender was here first.
Okay.
I like that we all don't. I like that we all are very not excited about that movie because I'm not excited at all. I'll probably see it when it comes out. On the video.
I can't wait to see the movie. Actually,
Oh.
I'm very.
Are you
excited about that
serious?
movie. Yeah, I'm really.
not excited at all.
Listen,
All right.
guys, you've met me. I'm a very simple human that wants to be entertained, not overcomplicated. Give me things that make me go, ooh, oh,
Shiny.
oh. That's it.
Oh.
That's it. I'm very
It's
simple.
only about 10 years late for you to have that reaction, in my
man.
opinion. You know.
Well, for anyone who's listening, we're now taking applications for a fourth cast member here on the show.
Chris, I'm gonna miss you dearly. Chris, it's been really fun. I didn't want to tell people you're the weakest link, but I guess cat's out of the bag now. Cat's out of the bag.
Man.
All right. Well, I guess if we want to talk about something simple that makes James go, ooh,
And a
let's talk
happy
about
new year.
Dragonfire. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, Dragonfire.
So this is a card that was revealed officially by the Disney Lorcana
It does
social
excite me.
media accounts. So it is a 5-drop action card that is a very simple line of text. Banish chosen character. 3 words. Super cool templating. I like that a lot because you're able to banish a chosen character, aka yours or your opponent's.
Correct.
Right.
It costs 5 mana, and it's an action card, which we have not seen yet. We've only seen character cards. Also, I should clarify, it's in Ruby, so it's a red card. So first of all, what do you think of the card itself? We'll talk about the inference of what it can do in like the bigger picture of Lorcana, but just as a card, a 5-drop targeted removal, good, bad, maybe kind of like, what do you think?
It feels very obviously like Magic the Gathering red aggro style, right? Where it's like target character suffers damage and then it implodes due to the fact. So it costs 5. So basically, you should be able to play it on turn 2. No, turn 3, right?
Turn 3. If it ends up
Turn 3, you can
if you
play
start
it.
it,
if that theory ends up being true, yeah.
Yeah, so if the Inkpot theory ends up being true, kind of like the Dawn deck from the One Piece TCG, you should, if that works out, should be able to play this on turn 3.
3,
Yep.
So it feels like a good ability. I feel like very aggro style, right? Where it's like it's a turn 3 drop to banish a chosen character that could be very annoying. And I feel like it depends on how important actions become in the meta or in the gameplay, where like, do you go heavy on the actions or do you go heavy on like the characters? And I think it'll be an interesting balance to see what happens going forward. But it seems like a very run of the mill, red, not overcomplicated, pay 3, destroy target creature or character.
I'm just excited that like it confirms. I mean, this is official news, obviously. Some of the first official news we've got in the last, 5-6 months. How long? And
I don't want to know.
Yeah, and it, like we talked about in the early podcast, like these games going to have actions. So now it's confirmed. We have actions. You're going to be mixing characters and actions in your deck. Like Skeff said, you're going to find a good balance between what characters you need to win the game. Right? We still don't know the win condition. We might think it has something to do with the pips, the diamonds. But you have to have things in your deck to actually win the game. Actions typically are going to change the board state in a temporary way. Or maybe a more permanent way, like this shows banishing a character is a permanent thing. We think, we don't know. So yeah, it's just cool to see that they confirmed that we're going to have actions that are different than characters. That we're going to have removal. So this, kind of we talked about earlier. You're not killing anybody. You're not, banishing them to the dark plane. You're just banish the
The
chosen
Shadow
character,
Realm.
the Shadow Realm, and like and you know, like Siggy said, you could choose your own character. There might be a reason why you would want to. This is all, you know, very advanced, but there might be a reason why you want to get rid of your own character. Maybe your character has a negative effect. Maybe your character has a affliction on them or something that the other player put on them that is harmful to you. You don't know. I don't know, but that's cool that the templating is just banish shows a character. It doesn't say your opponent. It doesn't say enemy. So the early speculation should be that you could choose your own characters as well.
Yeah. So this card is 100% up my alley as a aggro to mid range player. Again, Ruby, I can tell you guys already just from the 3 Ruby cards we have, like Ruby is 100% going to be like one of my main colors. We'll talk about the ink news later in the show, but I'm definitely going Ruby or Ruby X. Obviously as an aggro player, like early removal and damage, although, you know, Chris already touched on, you know, we don't know what the win condition is, but obviously we're not like sending people to the Shadow Realm in this game. So, I mean, I don't, there's really nothing more I can add. You know, again, if the ink theory holds true, turn 3, you know, hard removal is pretty good. So if we get our characters that have like some kind of like protection spell, then maybe in the future we can get, say, like, sort of like in Dragon Ball, we have like a keyword that's called barrier, right? So like maybe like in the future, you know, card design will get removal spells that say like ignoring like whatever, you know, that protection keyword is. But, you know, on the surface, you guys kind of covered everything. Like you said, we've already covered, you know, or speculated that, you know, actions were going to be part of the game. So hopefully we'll get actions that draw or actions that tutor. Something that I was curious about is, do you think actions are going to be based off how much, like if you can pay the ink and you can use as many per turn, or is it going to be like Pokemon and you use like one, like a supporter per turn?
I think it'll be as many as possible. I feel that the supporter in Pokemon is such a drastic impact on the game.
Right. Yeah.
That these, I feel this would be more a la like a trainer from Pokemon, where it's like, hey, look, I got 2 of these. Let's see what I can do with 2 of these in my hand. Like, I feel there'll be no cap on the quantity you can play in a turn.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense to me too. I was just curious, just thinking about it from like a gameplay. If I figured it's going to, you know, let you utilize the ink how best you want to. So, and
before Suki goes, I want to point out that the picture they gave us, the bottom is blurred out. You know, probably intentionally.
On purpose. Yeah. I'm sure there's more information on the bottom there. They're like, we can't give it all away. I'm like, whatever, Ravensburger.
I believe it's just flavor text, though, is my guess. Because if you look at the card, you can see.
I think it's the quantity of cards in the set.
Well,
yes, I agree.
There'll be details about, you know, the bottom of the card, obviously, about set and number, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, as far as all the other cards have that little storybook line. And below the storybook line, the first thing is flavor text, if they have that. I think they're hiding the flavor text, wherever that may be. And then, yeah, obviously there'd be there'd be set icons and card number, that kind of thing, which they probably want people, they don't probably want people to know that at this point, what the card icons and what the set numbers are going to be. So just want to throw it out there, but go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. It's a pretty simple card on the surface. And I think that's good because the reveal allows the players to see something that's cool, which is spot removal. You can banish a chosen character. So if there's something too big you can't deal with, if there's a character with elusive or evasive, whatever the keyword is, where you're unable to challenge it in combat, you can use this to get rid of it. The bigger implications are really what make me excited, because don't get me wrong, I think seeing this card, like, spot removal is great for any game. If your characters or monsters or creatures or whatever card game you're playing are allowed to go totally unchecked, the game gets really unfun, because you build up this what's called Voltron, where you have like one character with a bunch of equipment and gear and special abilities and powers that can't die, and the game becomes who can get to that Voltron faster, and then you just lose, which is not interesting at all. But what gives me an interesting thought is, first of all, Dragonfire is an action card. So do you think we'll see reaction cards, aka counter spells, that allow you to respond to something like this?
100%.
I hope we don't.
100%.
We don't.
I love those 2 responses right back to back.
Well, I want to hear what you guys think, because personally, and I'll kind of set the tone for the conversation, but I really despise games that have limited player interaction. With Pokemon being one of the few games I don't mind, because if you miss sequence, you've kind of screwed yourself. So there is an opportunity for the opposite player to have a chance if you mess up. But games where you do whatever you want and the opponent just sits there and goes to lunch, I honestly really don't like, because, you know, I could just pull out my phone and play Marvel Snap while you're taking your turn, and that's boring.
Right. This is true. But I feel that if you get into the timing of windows between things of that, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that becomes complicated a la Magic, which I feel takes that whole family friendly thing out the window.
Do you really, though, if a card has, like, I mean, there's tons of board games that have actions and reactions. Like, if your opponent does this thing, reaction, respond with this. I'm thinking of a really easy game that I play called Warhammer Underworlds, and there's cards that very explicitly say action, do this on your turn, or reaction, do this if your opponent fulfills this line of text. Like, your opponent attacks you and deals damage. Reaction, reduce the damage, or draw a card. And it's not very difficult, but it gives you interactivity while your opponent is playing the game and you're not just twiddling your thumbs.
It's true. This is very true. But my brain goes like, I just want to play Magic. Like, they're all like the time windows. Like, when does this happen? In instant now? Then I can play my instant. Do I tap to respond? When am I doing this?
Well, so that's my argument. I don't think there's going to be timing and spell speed. So for those of you who may or may not know, Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh have spell speeds and timing abilities where in Magic the Gathering, it's called the stack. In Yu-Gi-Oh, it's called the chain.
Yep.
And basically what it is first in, last out. So if I play a card, that's the first in. And then if Skeff plays a card, it goes on top. And then if I play a second card, that goes on top of that. And so you keep stacking the cards until both players are done. And the very, very, very last card on the stack is the thing that resolves first. And then you resolve the cards in reverse order from where they started. So if I play Dragonfire, and it says banish chosen character, and then Skiff has a reaction that says, you know, counter target action card your opponent plays. Then I would play a second Dragonfire and try and, you know, banish that character again. He could say, okay, I'm going to play another card, and so on and so forth. And you resolve the cards as they go. But in, you know, Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, there are specific cards with specific speeds, and you can play this card here, you can play this card there, and there's a lot of different knowledge you have to have. Whereas if you have action and reaction cards, it should be very simple. Action cards you can play on your turn. Reaction cards you can only play if a specific thing was fulfilled. That's it. There's no timing. It's just, did your opponent do this thing? If so, you can play this reaction. If they didn't, you cannot play this reaction. That's it.
That was beautifully said. I hope it's that. I have no interest in like windows. If it's just this and then that, I'm like, all right, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's my suspicion based on the action typing, because otherwise, why would it have a key, like a card type, if you just played it on your turn and no one could respond to it? And that's my game design theory. If they're going to have actions, they hopefully will have reactions. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I kind of think about the middle ground where I want something. I want to be able to respond. I don't know that I want to be a level of like having a total blue counter spell deck where all I'm doing is preventing the other person from playing actions or summoning characters. So kind of that middle ground. I think what you're going at, Siggy, where, you know, there is a different type of, you know, spell, some type of reaction, but it doesn't go to that third level, you know, where it's going to be actually hindering what the opponent's necessarily doing. So I guess we'll see. You know, I don't want it to be, again, I want to be a accessible game to everyone, right? First time card game players would be great. Hopefully they could get in this game and have fun. So I think the more you add on, the more layers, the more timing you add on, you know, again, Fab's a great example of that. It's a very, very, very complicated game. It's hard to get new people into the game and get excited about getting the higher levels of it because it's so complicated. So I hope it's pretty straightforward and simple. But I'm excited to see the actions for sure.
Yeah. So obviously, since I said that I want them, that comes down just not only from a competitive nature, but I mean, Sugi pretty much beautifully covered it just from a gameplay standpoint. I don't want the game to be exactly like what he said, as to where, oh, you play Dragonfire, then I got to sit there and let you bounce my target characters when, you know, if there's no interactivity, then to his point, then I can play, you know, Marvel Snap and not worry about playing this game. So I think there's more, you know, you need more interaction. Now again, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be like Windows stuff, because you definitely don't want this game, you know, like we keep saying, to be an entry point, and then you have basically like tier level decks from Yu-Gi-Oh where you're entering like chain level 10s, in 12s, and then you're losing track of like how many cards are stacked on the chain. But in order to have that engagement with your opponent, I think you do need some kind of counters in some form, basically.
So let's flip the script here. Let's pretend there's zero interactivity. You get to do whatever you want in your turn. Your opponent just has to watch. What would be the point of the action card? Like, do you think that there might be like a limited number of actions on top of a resource system, or is there like a specific, like, why would they call it an action card? I'm just curious to like poke your guys' brains, just because we're looking at it from a trading card game aspect. We're kind of pulling also in from board game aspects. Because, if it was Pokemon, I guess everything is an action, but there's no limit. So then why none of the cards have an action keyword, because there's nothing to stop you from doing anything other than play one supporter per turn, which this card is not limited to. So thoughts on the matter?
Yeah, it could just be a way to differentiate it from, again, if we're assuming the pips, which we've only seen on characters, we haven't seen any action cards yet. If that's a way to further the end game, to win the game, then, typing it as action or characters, which are the two types we've seen so far, could be just a way to separate those out. Because, again, you may have actions that buff your characters, right? So give them more pips, or give them more shields, or give them more damage, or make them elusive. So again, I think just because we're seeing a different type of action doesn't mean necessarily we'll see reactions. I think it just is a way to separate types of cards of the game. That's all it's doing, right? I don't necessarily. I see your point, Sugi, that it may imply more, but again, I think it's early days to tell that or not. I can see it just being, we want it to be clear that this is an action. This is something that just changes the game state in a temporary way. Play it, resolve it, and then that goes on. Versus a character which you play and it stays out there, assumably stays on the board, stays in the field of battle, stays in the canvas, whatever we're going to call the battlefield. So that's my thought.
All right. So I have a question for the team about the Dragonfire card that I think is also interesting. And again, this is all inferring all kinds of different things. But when you look at the top left of a card in Lorcana, so far, all the characters have this interesting swirl around the hexagon that has the value inside for their casting cost. Dragonfire does not. Dragonfire just has a hexagon with a number 5, no special swirl around it. Do you think that means anything? Do you think that has any kind of implication on casting restrictions, or what are your thoughts? I find this very unique that it's very clearly not the same as a character card.
Maybe it just has to do to like be able to tell the difference between like the character cards and
The action card.
Yeah.
the other cards. Because I assume if we have this action card, we're gonna have other random weird cards that
Right.
may that are
Maybe items.
Yeah, maybe items, or maybe a permanent, or maybe an enchant. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just assume the action card is one of the first of many things that come down the line. And I feel this is just an easier way to differentiate at the end of the game. Like, oh, hey, these are all my characters. These are my actions. And
Okay.
I think it's just like an aesthetic to it.
I'll take a hot take. I'll say that, again, I have no proof of this. It's just a complete guess. Obviously, all this is. But that perhaps for actions, you may need to spend an ink or a tap or exhaust or what have you, ink of that color to play the card. But I think that I don't like that necessarily. I'm not advocating for that, but that could be a restriction or rule in the game that, that for characters, it doesn't matter. Obviously there's a deck building restriction, which will be, we'll get into that later in this podcast, but deck building restriction about, what kind of inks you have, what kind of characters correspond with those. So perhaps, you can use any color ink to play the characters, but maybe for the actions, you have to at least use one of the certain type of ink to play the action. Again, not advocating for that, just make it a total guess.
Here's another concept to it is like, what if there's actions that stay in play and those actions do have the symbol around them, therefore meaning that cards with a symbol around the hexagon shape are ones that stay in play,
and
ones that
that'd be interesting.
And the ones that aren't are ones that you're able to differentiate in your hand. Go to your discard. Like, I've played it. Oh, this doesn't stay in play because I didn't create. It's not like a.
That's good.
Yeah, I like that.
It goes away. So I feel that the ones that have the circle are ones that will stay in play.
That is a very interesting proposal. I like that a lot. Yeah. My thought was
ignore
the
my
actual reverse of Chris's. Well,
That's why I'm sticking around.
Skeff's is way better. Oh my gosh. Well, sorry, Chris. My bad. My thought was the inverse of Chris, in that action cards don't require any specific type of ink, while characters, aka glimmers, do. But I'm also pretty okay with, if it has the swirl, it's a permanent, and if it doesn't, you get played. It goes to your discard pile. That's it. One and done. That's pretty cool.
It would make it easier on also making the game state like going forward, where they don't have to change the word action to like enchantment. They don't have to change the action word. They just either add the symbol or they don't. Yeah. And they just leave it as, and it makes it simpler too. Like you just look at like, oh, do they have the symbol? No, these are all actions. Just some stay and some don't.
Brilliant. I love it. I think that's a fantastic analysis on the card. Whether it's true or not,
I hope it's true.
I kind of do too, actually.
It's true.
It's a really good idea. Okay, well, let's move on to our second official piece of Lorcana information, and that is Olaf, the Friendly Snowman. So we got a new card reveal, and this is a 1-drop in purple, or I think it's amethyst.
Amethyst, yep.
Okay, yeah. And it's a character with one attack, 3 defense. Storyborn ally are the keywords. There are no special abilities. The flavor text says, I'm Olaf, and I like warm hugs. However, the Ravensburger little, I guess,
logo
in TV, we call it a bug, but yeah, the logo is conveniently covering up the right-hand side of the card, which I am 100% convinced is hiding at least 1 or 2 pips. But let's talk about Olaf, a 1/3 for 1. What do you think? Do you like him? Do you hate him? Will you play him?
Yeah. So if you're going to play a amethyst based deck, I mean, he's kind of, if you go back to the custom card episode we made, he's kind of stat wise in line with my Mr. Toad. So I 100% love that he's a 1/3 on 1. I'm mad that he doesn't have a tutoring effect to go find Elsa. I would prefer if he had a tutoring effect to find Elsa. I also 100% agree with you that so if you followed the discourse on Twitter, I have gotten into an argument with some people about this. Even though Ravensburger has come out and said that they're not hiding information, I don't believe them. I don't personally believe it till I have the card in my hand. Now, if
you sit on the throne of lies,
yes, exactly. Now, I mean,
hold on.
Wow, this got real dark, real fast.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
But they're lying to us. If I take them at their word, being the good people that they are, giving us a Disney card game,
he air quoted that one really hard.
And he is a 1/3, vanilla creature, then fine. For a set 1 card, fine.
I want to actually back up Jason on this because I do agree. On their Twitter post, they said, quote, "We are not hiding any game text," which I would agree with because the pips are not game text.
Right.
Correct.
Game text would infer a special ability, a special effect, special keyword. I agree. I don't think he has any keywords, but I'm 100% convinced that boy has got pips.
Yes,
at least one. Yeah.
I'm going to argue that. I'm going to argue that point because I don't know if we talked about. I don't think we've talked necessarily about stat values or maybe we have.
Not really.
I don't. Yeah. Let's just quickly. So when Jason was talking about that in most card games, you're going to have the developers of the game have certain math they're using for like a 1-cost card will generally be worth this much value as attack, defense, or ability or whatever, versus a 5-cost card would generally, be worth this much because you have to move these things around in line with each other and make the card game work. So it's a 1-cost character, storyboard ally, that is a 1/3. So if again, we don't know anything. We only know the initial cards we know. But I would expect that a 1-cost card, without an ability, generally is going to be a 1 strength. Well, let's look at Captain Hook. What is he again?
1/2, I think.
He's a 1/2, but when he challenges, he gets +2 on offense.
So then he's a 3/2 when he's challenged.
He's a 3/2 on the swing.
Right.
So he's a 1-cost, 1/2 with an ability.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. Yeah.
So Olaf is a 1-cost, 1 with another shield, but no ability.
Correct. Yeah.
And and Hook has okay, I see your point. Hook has 1 pip.
Yes.
So that's my argument is when they said, "Hey, we're not hiding any game text," and they have a little winky face. They're technically telling the truth.
Telling the
because
truth, exactly. Yeah.
There's no game text. I think Olaf is a vanilla 1/3 with no ability. However, there's no way that Ravensburger logo isn't covering up something, because why would they put a winky face if it was totally revealed?
Exactly. Yeah.
So a base card in this game isn't going to be like a 1/1/1 because that doesn't.
I'm sure there will be. I'm sure
there'll
there'll
be.
But a base card in this game, I mean, if we look at you have to think the Captain Hook and Olaf are both 1-cost cards, and they already have 1 cost with a 1/2 and ability, and 1 cost with a 1/3 and no ability. So the pip, maybe a base card could be, maybe the thought is a base card is a 1-cost 1/1 with 2 pips.
Yes, that's accurate. That's what's going to happen.
That
That's the thing is like
that might
Olaf
be a base card.
is a wall or a defender,
Yep.
and then Hook is aggro, so he gets extra benefits.
They get but they give up a pip.
Right.
Yes.
So do you want to further your pips or do you want to further your ability? And I think that'll be the balance. I think there'll be a 1/1 2 pip.
Yeah, I think Olaf has 2 pips as well. That's what I would wager.
No, I think Olaf has 1 pip.
If he has 2 pips, and those are our math we have no idea about.
I think
our imaginary
Olaf
math
has 1 pip because he's a 1/3.
How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? Let's place a bet right now.
I think there would be a 1 cost.
$5.
I would bet you a booster pack. A booster pack of Lorcana.
Yeah, a booster pack of Lorcana.
All right, you got
and
it.
then we'll crack it open live together.
Yes, you got it. All right.
I think there would be a 1 cost,
I have a
1
question.
strength, 2 pip card.
I have a question. What if it's not 1 or 2? Like, what if it's 0 or 3 and we're both wrong? Do we just don't worry about it?
They have 0 cost cards.
Then I get 2 packs.
Well,
No, you're not involved in this. You go sit over there with your aggro deck. Let the 2 control players fight this out.
Yeah, right.
Hey, at least I don't play Mills, so.
Wow.
Chad, if you know that's a shot at Sugi, has been fired. Moving on.
If the ink theory is true, there shouldn't be any 0 cost cards, right?
Yes, there will be 0 cost cards.
I guess there could be.
I mean,
there will be 0 cost cards.
Possible? Why?
It seems more unlikely to me that there'll be 0 cost cards. Given does Pokemon have 0 cost cards?
Pokemon doesn't have resources.
You can just play. No, Pokemon does have Pokemon that do have free attacks that require no energy.
No, he's talking about playing cards.
Yeah.
Oh,
you don't have to pay any resources.
You play with
you have to use energy for attacking, but to play a card, it's totally free.
Yeah, you just play.
What about One? You said One Piece is similar to this, I guess.
Yeah, One Piece actually has no 0 drops.
No
as far
zeros.
as I'm aware.
No.
Marvel Snap has a 0 drop.
They do.
Marvel Snap has a couple of them.
They do.
This is not the same game.
This is Marvel.
They're both Disney.
Towards.
I'm gonna just say they're both. Hey, they're very similar. They're under the same umbrella.
Like, I don't think Hearthstone has many. I mean, maybe they do. I haven't played Hearthstone for a long time.
Magic has 0. I feel this is becoming more similar to Magic than it is Pokemon.
Magic, you have to get the land. You have to first draw the land.
Magic has 0 drop cards.
But you have to draw the land. And you have to play the land.
There's artifacts that cost 0 in Magic.
I agree. I'm not arguing with you, but there's a different resource system where you have to actually put lands in your deck. You have to draw the land at a certain time. Then you have to play the land 1 per turn, right? Whereas this game, if we're going with the ink system we talked about, the rumored that you're going to get so much. If you're going first, you start with 1 out there, and then you get 2 each turn. Then you're getting your resources each turn, right?
Right.
So to me. Again, I'm not a game designer. I just play a lot of these things. It doesn't make as much sense for me that there be a lot of 0 cost cards or any at all.
No, I think there'll be 1. I think there'll be like 1 or 2, and they'll be great cards. And that's
want to bet a booster pack on that?
Absolutely, I'll bet a booster pack on that.
You guys are going to be up to case pretty soon. 36 packs, huh?
I'm going to make 36 packs.
I don't think Sugi and I are going to have. We have these 2 here. I think there'll be
we got to go back and listen to all
great
the
cost
bets.
card that'll cost 0.
You guys should write the bets down as we go. Otherwise, you have to go back to all the episodes and listen to the bets you made.
I actually
the chat will keep us honest. Comment down below. Keep us honest for this chat.
I do think it's possible to see a 0 drop. It's probably going to be a very, very, very low impact card.
Oh yeah, it's just there to be there.
I could see it as like a 0/1, like a little doodad, something.
Yeah.
It like I said, it has low impact, but sometimes you just need a little bit of a boost to survive, and that 0 drop might be what you need. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
Going back to Olaf, I will say that I know it doesn't. I read this when I first saw the card. I immediately thought he was going to be a token. I don't know why that struck me that way. But I just thought, he seemed like a token to me, like a card that is just representing some, that could come back and representing a game effect, basically. So that was a guess I had, but I have no proof that that's going to be true. He looks like a real character, but it seems like he'd be the type of character in my mind that I would make a token of, right? Because he's a snowman. He comes and goes. He gets he melts
Olaf lives forever, sir. How dare you? He will live
until he melts.
No, he's not melting. He has his own little bubble of snow that Elsa created to keep him alive.
I guess I forgot about that part. You're right.
Oh, spoilers! Spoilers!
Spoilers for a 4-year-old movie. I think.
Longer than that. What is Frozen from?
Frozen 2 is where she created, or at the end of Frozen, she created the cloud for him.
End of Frozen.
It came out in 202014, I think. 2014
Frozen 2 was 2019. So Frozen was
2014, 2015.
2013.
Ew.
Well, the end of 2013.
Okay, I think I'm thoroughly like, for me, they released Dragonfire. I'm like, okay, cool. They have released the concept that they're going to be additional cards to interact with the game. Then they released Olaf, and I'm like, it's just a wall. All right, whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
big
Next
butt.
card, please.
Imagine we say it's a big butt, right? Is that appropriate for this podcast? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's fair. That's something they use those words in a Disney movie.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That's fair.
People on the stairs. That's a Disney movie.
What do you think about Olaf, Skeff? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this card.
So at the end of the day, I feel that the amethyst or the purple is just a set. Like, as more cards get revealed, obviously the expanding concept of like what you want to build deck wise. But right now, the Elsa and the wall that he is as a 1/3, it's just like, for me, that's just, I just sit and just prevent you from doing things is not the way I really like to play. So it's just, for me, it's not exciting, but at the end of the day, seeing Olaf, who is a phenomenally adorable character in the card game, is pretty cool. So I'm curious when we're going to get Sven and the Moose.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
But yeah, so for me, it's not very exciting because I'm just like, it's just a 1/3 wall, no abilities, 1 pip. It's just like, all right, more cards, keep these coming.
That's fair. So I'm going to take the more negative route, surprisingly, and I find the card reveal kind of bland. Because
a bit annoying almost.
Well, so this is one of the things that really made my brain start thinking is there's got to be something really interesting going on with the rules for how the game plays, because a 1-drop 1/3 vanilla snowman with no abilities, and who cares, he might have 1 2 3 0 pips, that's not super relevant, honestly. But we have a really interesting 1-drop in Captain Hook. We've got a 1/2 that gets a +2 on offense when he challenges. Great game design, super interesting. And then they give us a 1/3 vanilla, and it's like, this card sucks just based on what you're showing us. Like,
but we know in every game that's ever come out, there's sets where you just look at, you're like, that is unplayable. Moving on, like, it's just going to happen.
So then, and those are the two sides of the coin that kind of keep coming up when I look at Olaf. Is if you've ever talked or if you ever listened to an interview with a game designer for any trading card game, there are many cards in those sets. There's a great example for Magic the Gathering. It's a 2/2 bear for 2 mana, 1 green, 1 colorless. And people ask, why do you have this vanilla creature that is 2 mana, that's 2 strength, 2 toughness, doesn't do anything? What is the purpose? And the designers have multiple times over multiple years said, when we're designing sets of cards, the intent is not to have a 100% rate of unique, interesting, powerful, game-changing. Oh my gosh, I want all these cards. There's a combination of cards that have high impact, combination of cards that have mid impact and low impact, because there's a wide range of peoples playing Magic the Gathering. And your trading card game fanatics and tournament players and grinders are the ones who are searching for the big hits, the powerful, high impact, super effective card games or cards. And then you might have, little Timmy's first booster pack of Magic the Gathering, and they just think that this bear that's a 2/2 with a 2-cost drop to cast is the coolest thing ever. And so designers for trading card games have to create a wide spectrum of cards that give players of all levels, of all experiences, of all ages, a reason to buy a booster pack, because some people are going to want to collect Olaf because that's their favorite Disney character. And I love Olaf. He's actually one of my favorite characters. So seeing his card as a 1-drop vanilla is kind of like, ew, bummer. But I do adhere to the fact that designers have to have a wide range of cards, because if all cards are hyper effective, high impact, then you're just playing a super tournament grindy game. And if all cards are super boring and all vanilla and they do nothing, then you're just playing, 52 card pickup essentially. So that's kind of the negative aspect of Olaf of, well, he's just kind of a throwaway character. They printed him because he's cool and that's it. The other side of that coin that really makes me interested with this card, because Lorcana's team has been pretty succinct and strategic with what they revealed. So my better instinct says there's something about Olaf that is relevant to the way the game plays that'll make him a lot better. Now, I don't know what it is. This is all speculation. We don't work for the company and we don't have any insider information. But because he doesn't have any kind of special ability, and a 1-3 is not particularly strong either, it leads me to believe that the game is probably going to be utilizing these weaker characters, these quote-unquote vanilla characters, which references the fact they have no special ability. There might be another mechanic that you can use this card for that we're not aware of. And that's what makes me really interested about those pips, because now it makes Olaf and vanilla characters look way more interesting in a mechanical sense of the game. Now, I don't know what that is, but I'm just thinking, maybe you can pitch a card for, blocking offense like you do when someone attacks you in One Piece. You can block the attack by pitching cards and they give you extra defense. Maybe you pitch cards from your hand in order to score locations or objectives or so. Like, again, we're speculating about the pips, but like, honestly, a 1-cost 1-3 is super incredibly boring, but I don't foresee Disney and the Lorcana team showing off this card for the sake of it's boring. There's got to be something about it. And maybe I'm just overthinking it and they're showing off Olaf because it's Olaf and he's cool and I'm wrong and I'm fine with that.
Now, let me ask you this. With this being set 1, something that I just thought about while you were talking is, do you think every color will essentially have an Olaf, a vanilla 1-3 card, because this is set 1 just to get started?
No,
100%.
No, absolutely
100%.
not.
See,
booster pack.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to agree with Scath. Yeah.
Well, okay. I should clarify. When you ask the question, I'm thinking that every color will have a 1-drop, 1-3 vanilla creature. I think they will have a low impact character, but I don't think they're all going to be 1-drop, 1-3. Here's Olaf. Here's a Boo in, red. Here's Weak Stitch in yellow. Here's, I don't know, the chicken guy from Robin Hood in, Ruby, whatever. I don't think they're just going to like carbon copy it. But I do think there will be low impact characters with maybe it's a 2-drop that's like, 2-5 or something. It's a vanilla thing that you throw down. Who knows?
I think it'll be a cycle like a lot of games. I mean, there'll be each color will have a 1-cost character, to Siggy's point, that will have a strength in one area. So we know that Olaf is the more defensive one. I don't know what color is going to be the color better at scoring points with further in the game state, but that one might have the 1-cost that has 2 pips, right? But it only has 1 strength, 1 defense. So I think there'll be a cycle. I don't see that if every color has a 1-3, then there's not going to be enough uniqueness in the purpose of building a different color, right? You're gonna be able to grab everything you need. So maybe there'll be color pairings. Maybe there'll be pairings that, especially for the first set, that they want to urge you to play together. They make more sense to do. That maybe the designers have maybe you read a yellow for whatever reason. They just make more sense because they're going to have a lot of combo cards that go together. But yeah, I don't see every faction, every color having the same type of cards, same stat lines.
It's possible. The other thing I thought about, and this is really, and I'm openly admitting, really left field, maybe you could stick an ally underneath a character to give them a boost in stats, like an equipment or an upgrade.
Okay. It's possible, yeah.
But like I said, just a 1-3 for 1, like I really, really believe there's something else to this card that we're just not aware of at the moment. And I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
However, I won't lie. I really like that art, and if they did a full art foil, I wouldn't hate it too much. You know what I mean?
I mean, again, like I said, my only negative is that he doesn't tutor for Elsa. So I want an Olaf that tutors.
That would cost like 3.
Well, I mean, there could be a
that's the
3-drop
thing.
version
It
of it.
can't, because Elsa costs 3. So
what does she tutor for him? I think it would be more likely that she
should tutor for him.
Yeah, she should tutor for him.
Well, fine. But
and if anything, he should bodyguard for her. And again,
that's what I wanted to see, is have like a bodyguard.
Well, see, I think if you're gonna have a bodyguard, then that's Marshmallow.
Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
That's a token. That's again,
which I guarantee will be in the set.
Yes.
Marshmallow will be in that first.
I
set.
hope he is. If they're gonna have these two,
yeah, if they have these two, you're gonna have.
Yeah. So then, we will obviously get Anna, Kristoff's Finn. Yeah.
Maybe not Anna. I don't know what she would do. She wouldn't really do much. I feel that
I want the Duke of Weaselton.
He will not be in
chicken
the
dance.
She did, just because she doesn't have magical power, she did a lot. She motivated her sister, get her out of a dark place.
Oh god.
Anna.
Oh man. So yeah, I am excited about the game. Like there's just so much about Olaf that confuses me and makes me wonder like what's behind the Ravensburger logo.
A pip, Sugi, a pip.
Yeah.
you win, Sugi. We give in. You
2 pips. I really want to know what the ally key, if the ally keyword is relevant. I'm assuming there's going to be cards that allow you to search
target
out
allies.
like target ally gets a thing,
Mhm.
or like if I'm really honest, now that Jason's mentioned it, it would kind of be cool if Anna searched out Olaf.
Okay,
because
here,
Elsa doesn't do it. We already know what Elsa does.
And then Kristoff could tutor for Sven.
For Sven, because they're kind of the trio.
Right, yeah.
So I could see Anna searching. Oh man, what if Anna searched out an Elsa or an Olaf? That would be
There
sick.
we go. There's the tutoring I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Anna costs.
Okay, so what is?
She'd be a 2 cost.
No. Anna would probably be like a 4 or 5. She'd have to be like a turn 3 or 4. Well, yeah. She'd probably be like a turn 3, so she'd probably be like a 4 or 5 drop. You could search out a Anna or an Elsa or
Olaf.
a Olaf.
What does the purple action do you want to build a snowman do? Somebody tell me.
You can search for marshmallow.
Or
I hope they have a do you want to build a snowman card.
Or like because of in the movie she like just stayed in her room, maybe like it protects Elsa.
That'd be interesting.
Gives her a Lucifer round. Okay, there we go.
Who knows? I want the one thing I pray to God they do not do based on what you just said is having card abilities that like stick on a card for a turn that you have to remember. I really hope they don't do that.
Well, you could. There's ways around that. You could also do, some games you can have the card sit out, kind of like an equipment or whatever. Or memory text. So it's not so bad, but yeah, probably for if we're talking about kind of a base level card game too, that would be a lot to remember.
I don't mind it. It's just people forget all the time, and then you like play out a turn, and then like 5 minutes later they're like, "Oh, that card had indestructible."
Yeah.
I mean, they could let you do it like Yu-Gi-Oh and take notes though.
I don't want to take notes for a Disney trading card game.
No, we want to be able to just seriously.
I'm just trying to solve your solution. So
you're right. That's true. But
here you guys talk about like all the tutoring. Again, we don't know if there's tutoring or not. Tutoring is a very specific thing, but I hope that's only in one color. I don't want everybody have access to be able to constantly tutor out characters. It makes a lot of sense of the way you guys are saying it, but you can make the argument about any movie, any Disney movie. The mermaids go to all summon together like Merfolk and magic. What?
Yeah.
I hope they limit it to one color, kind of like how we think that yellow so far is going to be the one that or have the transform mechanic or whatever, or
shift.
The shift mechanic.
Thank you. So they build upon the top of each other. So maybe that's purple. We haven't seen any tutors yet. It's probably not going to be red, right?
No, red is definitely like removal. So
if green is is comparable to magic, green's just going to be the biggest. They're going to be tougher for their color.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we know. Well, this Corella, isn't it?
She's like a 1/3, isn't
she? She's a 2 cost 1/3.
So she does have a big shield. So yeah, maybe they tend to have a more defensive.
Well, she's got that bounce ability if she dies in a challenge.
And then blue is like kind of
blue has draw if your opponent has more cards than
like,
you, and then if you swing on your turn, you have elusive or evasive. Whatever that keyword is.
Evasive, yeah.
It just seems they have that more abilities because he's a 6 cost 4/4. So again, I just want him to throw out there. I don't want everybody constantly because you can make story wise Disney. You can make the argument all the time that we're going to just tutor for everybody that makes sense to be with your person, right? So that's just a game where constantly they were just constantly grabbing stuff out like that to make as Suki said, a Voltron, which is not something I'm necessarily interested in.
But conveniently, you are excellent at setting up the ability to transition from one point to the other. So we're going to segue into our last topic of discussion, and that comes from the Disney Lorcana team giving a big scoop to Knives Nerd Corner. So you can check out his video on YouTube. But we got the information that deck building restrictions are as follows. You can use up to 2 different inks in a deck. So you can have monocolor decks, or you can have dual color decks. So you can't have 3, 4, or 5, or 6 color cards to do all that 5 color, 6 color control stuff. So what are your thoughts on that announcement? I think it's a very interesting prospect, but I want to hear what y'all have to say.
I'm super excited. Again, when I heard that, I'm super excited about everything, but super excited that we know now that deck ability is going to be limited away. I know it sounds kind of weird to be excited about that, but that gets my mind spinning about what this game's going to look like, how it's going to make sense. Again, how we talked about, like, there's probably going to be synergy between certain colors, in certain ways, and in the certain other ways, you might be giving up something to get stronger in one area, or just figuring out those pairings is really interesting to me versus, oh, you can play anything you want. And from a game design point, it just makes a better game, honestly. You may think, if you never get these kind of games before, you may think that, being totally open and being totally available to any combination of colors and cards is a good thing, but it's not really, because the game designers have to test all those possibilities. It's almost sometimes, when you get enough cards in a set, it's impossible to keep those things balanced. So in terms of having a balanced game, I was happy to see that, because to me that makes it more likely this game's not going to have, any huge swings or any, it makes it more likely it can be balanced. So what do you guys think? What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, on the same thought process as you about this. First off, shout out to Nye for getting he asked the right question. So, shout out to him for getting this out of them. But yeah, on a competitive standpoint and just gameplay, like you said, like, I actually really like that they're going to be putting that restriction on us, because for the DBS angle, you can run multicolor decks. If I want to play a rainbow color deck, I can do that, or I can run tricolor or dual color decks, which of course, you can do dual inks here. But, I think it's good to be able to sit down and like look at the cards like you were talking about, and being able to find like those little interactions between the different inks, especially if this theory turns out to be true, because I've seen some talk when the news came out on the Discord about how people were upset that you can't play like rainbow. And so I don't think what they're thinking about is getting mana screwed, because if you're, coming down to the wire where you need to push for game, or you need to do some kind of action to claim, whatever it's going to be, right? You don't want to like, flip your 2 ink for the turn and then get like an amethyst and a ruby, and you need, steel and something else, right? You don't want to screw yourself over. So I think having that restriction, especially for like we talk about having like newer players, this is their first little TCG. I think it's a good way to, just be consistent and learn and just go from there. So,
and going off of your point, I really hope that, despite my earlier prediction, I really hope that there isn't a spot condition or whatever you want to call it, or a type of, you have to tap, the one color or another to do something.
Right. Yeah.
The restrictions are already there. Right.
Yep.
So that's, I think, on a base level for new players playing this being their first card game, I just love the thought that once I build my deck, I don't have to worry about if I can play the card or not. Or, Star Wars Destiny used to have kind of a middling solution, which was fine. And I thought it was okay with it, where you actually had to still have a character. That card was more character based. You brought 2 characters, brought however many, a team of characters to the game that had certain colors. And some cards you had to spot that character to be able to play an action card from your hand, right? You hit that card, that character still had to be on the board. That won't necessarily work here, because who knows how long the characters stay or what they do. But again, I want to go back to that base level of just being, I already had my restriction when I made the deck. Let me play whatever I get in my hand, not be worried about that. I think that'd be great for new players.
Yeah. So going off, just talking about, since this is a perfect time to bring this up, since I didn't bring it up when we were talking about Dragonfire. So let's say you're playing Ruby and Emerald, right? And we'll use 2 cards that we know exist, Dragonfire and Corella, right? So you can activate Dragonfire, banish Corella, and then activate Corella's effect to return chosen character to a player's hand. So there's already like an interaction that you can do using two different inks.
Well, assuming the timing works that way, right? But yes.
Yeah. But I'm yeah, exactly.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that would make sense to me that timing work that way, and I hope it works that way. But yes, that's
hopefully.
A very cool interaction but that your statement also implies there's a stack, right?
Correct.
I think there has to be some type of stack in any kind of card game. There's going to, and by stack we mean an order of operations of how things are going to resolve. Inevitably, they're going to be 2 things resolving at the same time, or things waiting to resolve, depending on how the cards are worded. Again, paring that down to a base level is very important. But if you go too base, you won't have much of a game, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
That sweet spot, as we've been talking about. I think that's a basic of a lot of things we discuss in this podcast. Is we want it to be interesting enough that people want to play, people want to collect it, but we, especially for a Disney, new player game, we don't want it to be too complicated to scare away new players. So find that sweet spot.
Yep, 100%.
Cool. Find there. Skeff, what do you got? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking keeping it streamlined is important because you don't want to overcomplicate things starting off. But also, I think as long as they keep in mind to make sure that whenever they ramp the game up, hopefully they're thinking a couple sets ahead of time, so they don't make the set they're coming out with now just completely irrelevant when the new set comes out. But I feel if they just maintain the course here and keep moving forward, I think there's a good opportunity for a lot of people to learn how to play the game very easily, and then that'll allow more people to play within the community, which will grow the entire thing.
I personally dislike the restriction. I understand why it's there. I think it's a good idea to throttle potential problems, because if you can only build a deck with 2 color combinations, when you're doing playtesting, you don't have to worry about 3 color, 4 color, 5 color, and even 6 color combination decks. So the odds are the balance will be better. However, one of my favorite things about card games that I like is the freedom to express myself using the tools that I'm given. So it's tricky. Like, I'm not going to not play Lorcana, and I'm not going to be like obsessed with, oh, it's only 2 colors, this game sucks. I just dislike the fact that before the game is even out and before you even have rules, it's like I can't do multiple colors if I wanted to. If I found something cool and interesting, I can't do it.
But I'm gonna push back because a little bit. The tool you've been given is 2 colors. That's the tool you've been given. I mean, so that's what they're going to. They have to have a design parameters, right? And again, you've already acknowledged it. Like, it would be extremely complicated to have an interesting game with multiple factions, multiple colors, multiple types of interactions, and test all the possibilities of those cards unless you have some type of restrictions, right?
So the only counter I have to that is, when you have a trading card game based around the Disney IP, you're bringing in a lot of people because of said IP. So if you have Stitch in yellow, and you have Robin Hood in blue, and Elsa in purple, and those are your 3 favorite characters, and you can only play 2 of them, it's kind of like, bummer. Whereas if you're playing, Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, you could do whatever you want. That's totally fine. Now, again, I do understand and agree with the balance philosophy that, this will make the game easier to balance. But I, on the flip side, don't like the fact that I'm limited to a third of the colors. When you have a 6 color pie option, you only get to pick 1 or 2. And it's like, bummer. So, I mean, I'm hopeful we'll maybe see cards that span multiple colors that you could splash into a deck. So that way you could still have the 2 color restriction. But if you have a character you absolutely love that's, blue and purple, and you're playing a purple deck, you could potentially bring them in. It's so tricky because I agree with what they're trying to do, but I disagree with the limitation it presents to the player immediately. And that's my biggest complaint. Any thoughts on that?
I think it'll be interesting. It's just the gameplay right now. Maybe it'll change, maybe it won't, but I think just giving people not overburden them with opportunities to figure out what to play, where they just want to play everything. Maybe just streamline it. You 1 or 2 colors, and then maybe that'll change sometime next year. And
like most card games, you're not going to have one deck, right? If to your first point about, I want to be able to, it's a Disney game, I want to be able to play the characters I love. You can make a deck around the characters you love. And it seems like, obviously, so far we know Elsa and Olaf are both from purple, right? So you could assume that the rest of the crew from Frozen are going to be in purple. They're probably going to keep the IPs together in that way, and I'll be interested to see. I think that's what we'll see those. They'll be signaled. The designers probably be signaling to us about those color combinations if they go outside of that, right? If we see a Frozen character outside of purple, I'm guessing, again, that might signal to us that that's a color that they think purple should be paired with, right? So I'm excited for that, and to me, it just stands out that this game is, going to be somewhat again, I don't think I haven't got a signal this will be a complicated game or a hard game. If anything, I've had the signals that it's going to be a very straightforward and base level game. But the fact that they're giving out this limitation, to me, makes me believe that they will be taken seriously, right? Yes. That they want to be able to play test the game effectively. They want the game to be balanced, because if you didn't care, if you just wanted to print cardboard money, you could just say, yep, we're going to print these cards. You guys, here's a rough set of rules. You guys can break them out and play them wherever you want. And we haven't really tested these combinations out at all. So to me, it's a very exciting thing to see that they actually are limiting the interactions in some way, because it's just the more cards you have, the more sets you have, the harder it's going to get to balance all these things. As we know from Magic, Flesh and Blood, Yu-Gi-Oh, all these games, like the more cards you add in, the more possibilities you have for broken cards, broken combinations.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I'm interested to see how they keep the game interesting and unique with a 2 ink limit. But there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of possibility, and I'm really excited to build as many decks as possible based on what is available in the first set. Hopefully, it's a nice, big, chunky set. So we'll have to wait and see. But so this has been a fantastic conversation about Lorcana. I'm really, really excited to see what comes out from the Disney Lorcana Twitter page and social media team, because even with 2 announced cards and a little bit of a spoiler given out to Nive, we've got so much potential to talk about, and it's really, really exciting and really encouraging that the team is actively giving us a little bit of a hint and slowly providing us with more details about something that's pretty darn exciting. But before we close off the show, we've got a quick question on Twitter from Nate the Illuminator. And if you're listening and you've got a question you want to hear on the show, you can contact us either on Twitter. We also have a Facebook page. All of them are at LorcanaCast. Super easy to find. But Nate asks, how many cards do you think the deck limit will be for Lorcana? Are you thinking 40, 60? And I know we don't necessarily know the exact number, but the fact that we've gotten more information, we've gotten the 2 ink restriction, I think we have enough data to start to kind of accurately assess what we think would be a healthy deck size for this game. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we discussed this before. I think we've talked about, Magic standard card size is about 60. Well, it's 60. A lot of these card games have between, 60, 40, 80 or card common numbers for and depending on the mechanics of the game, we're talking about between 20 minutes, 40 minutes per game of a card game. Magic includes in it the resources, the lands, right? So again, we're going with the ink theory that these would be outside and these would be a separate deck, not from the cards you're playing. So I'm leaning towards about a 40 card deck size. I think, with the inks, we bring in 15 inks or whatever, about that much, 40 cards, that will be about a pretty fast game, like about a, 20, 30 minute per session per actual individual game, which is pretty good for, entry level, keep people attention, fast paced. The other question we have to answer, we don't know, we have no idea, is about how many copies of a card you have. That makes a difference as well too, right? So again, with 40 card decks, you may have a 3 card limit, you may have a 2 card limit. You may have, maybe it's all singleton. I think that'd be unlikely, but it could be you can only have 1 copy of each card of your deck. So go back to the listener question. I'm leaning towards between 40 and 60, more on the 40 side. Maybe I'll say 50, just to go in the middle.
Yeah, coming from primarily playing Bandai games lately, our number is 50. So that's the number that I'm most comfortable with. Of course, Yu-Gi-Oh is to be optimal, you play 40. So again, like Chris was saying with the whole ink situation. And again, like we keep reiterating with this being, someone's my first little TCG. I think 40 is likely, but I would be perfectly fine if it's 50. So Sugi, what do you think?
Yep, I'm right in the same boat. I think it's a 40 card main deck, and then your ink pot deck will be like 10 to 15 cards, kind of like the Dawn deck from One Piece. Just because most people complain about the mana / land resource system in Magic the Gathering. A lot of people complain that it's old and antiquated, and there's so many better ways to do it. And if you look at some of the designs that the current developers have worked on, they have like the Chrono Clash system from Digimon, and it doesn't use any resources. You just use a little sliding scale. One Piece is popular right now with the Dawn deck. You've got other card games that use different ways of presenting resources without having to add them into your deck as a deck restriction, as efficiency cost, limiting if you have dead draws and mana long and mana screw, which we've talked about before. So yeah, I could see 2 different decks where the main deck is significantly smaller, especially since Lorcana inherently is targeting younger demographic of players and newer players who are just buying the game because it's got a Disney character they love, and then maybe eventually you read the rules and you go, oh, this game's pretty fun, I'm interested. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I think we're all in that same area because, again, my first TCG, but the more unique cards you have in that deck, the more complicated the game's going to be, your deck's going to be, right? So with 40, again, we don't know about the pairing of how many unique cards or how many copies of a card you have, but assuming that it's 2 to 3, which is very common for these types of games, then you have 20, 30 decision points at the most with 20, 30 different type of combinations that work together, which, some like Flesh and Blood, again, not to put that as a kind of pedestal, but it's pretty complicated as card games go. You have basically 60 card playable deck, but you bring 80 cards, right? And you have a pre-board process where when you see the person against from you, you see what they're playing, you can change cards before you start the game. Then, and 3 copies of a unique card per card. So I think that us going in that range just means that this is going to be more straightforward, more simple for people to get in at the ground level and have a fun experience that lasts for 20, 30 minutes versus trying to make this really complicated thing that's going to be this huge Voltron engine to win a game, right? So I think that's reasonable to say 40, 50 cards, 2, 3 copies of each card.
All right, we will see everybody next time. Thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the show and you're listening to us on, a podcast aggregate or YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe so you know exactly when the next episode goes live. Also, check us out at LorcanaHQ.com. That is where we are partnered up with an amazing team, and we've got all kinds of Lorcana content, plus access to a fantastic Discord with a lot of people. I think it's over 1,000 people, so a great community, lots of opportunity. And we will see everybody next time. Remember, Ohana means family, and that means nobody gets left behind, nobody gets forgotten.
The squeaky wheels always getting the grease. I'm so